Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's Jamie here, Jamie Brewster's Musical Heroes. And I've got a very special guest with me today. It's Adrian Snell from Bath. And I'd like to welcome you, Adrian, to the
Thank
channel.
you. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Lovely to be back.
Yeah, great to see you. Looking well.
Well, it's not really a tan, it's the red light in the room, I think.
You've got red light. Could I ask where you are, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm in my music therapy room at Freeways Academy in Bath. Here is a little quick
Oh, lovely.
circular tour.
Wow.
So this is my Aladdin's cave with a crazy range of instruments, funny lighting, but a place that I bring my students to in the hope that it will create a little bit of magic on its own. Just being in this space makes it feel somewhere full of
Right.
adventure and promise. So I kind of love being in this room, but that's where I'm speaking to you from.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, when we last spoke in August, we were really sort of reviewing your book and sort of the last 50 or so years of your life that you've written down. So what we didn't really talk about very much was some of the things you've got coming up, some of the plans, some of the tours. Obviously, you've had a new album. So where should we start? I mean, since August, I mean, you know, you've done a number of things, but have you had much feedback on the album? Because that's obviously been quite a mammoth effort.
Big undertaking. Yeah, it's been positive. I mean, what I can't say at this point in time is what the sort of level of uptake is, as in
Okay.
people who's streaming it, who've
Sure.
purchased, all that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
the responses I get in writing primarily are really lovely. They're very thoughtful because, of course, it's such a major work in terms of it being three CDs,
Sure.
that it does need a lot of, there's quite a job of work to listen to it all
Hmm.
and to grasp the sort of the themes within. So
Okay.
I appreciate that making that decision to go for a 3 album work was quite a risk, because some people might think, gosh, you know, that's just too much.
Hmm.
But I felt the need somehow to almost just to put some, what's the word, having written so much over so many years, I kind of needed to get it out there, I think,
Yeah.
and then move on from that. So yeah, it's been an amazing experience, and yeah, I'm just very grateful to have people saying the things that they are saying about it.
Super. That's great. And you've been around a bit recently. You've been to, I think you were in Holland. Was it December you were doing some concerts in
There were
Holland?
concerts in October and in December,
Okay.
and they were great. I mean, there were the most important thing to me, I suppose, was to see after COVID and after a long gap in terms of being in Holland,
Mm.
how would people respond, and would they still come? And they did, and they came in good numbers. There were very, very lovely responses, and it felt like I was back in my sort of
Wow.
second musical home, which Holland has
Fantastic.
kind of become.
Brilliant. Okay.
Um, but I guess the highlight really from between August and December was this very moving special performance of my work, The Cry, the
Sure.
Requiem for the Lost Child, in the Ukrainian Catholic Cathedral in London. And this was hosted by the charity Beyond Conflict.
Okay.
And the aim was to use the cry to bring awareness, particularly of the plight of children in Ukraine, but also the broader picture that is within the cry of the voice of the child to those of us in the adult world who are responsible for the way things are, you know.
Sure.
Um, so the cry on November the 11th, so Armistice Day, was a really special occasion, and it was wonderfully well attended. Some very interesting people there, quite
Yeah.
influential people, um, and a reminder to me, at least, that the cry has so much more scope. You know,
Yeah.
we've only performed it 4 or 5 times,
Hmm.
and it just feels like it's especially massively relevant to the
Well,
times in which we live.
for
And
sure.
that was just a wonderful location to be able to bring it to people.
Are there any little recording clips of it somewhere on YouTube or
Um,
anything?
I don't think so. There are photographs, so
Okay.
there are some stills that were taken. A lovely set of stills that were taken from the evening.
Sure.
But oh no, I don't know what I'm thinking here. it was supposedly streamed to Ukraine itself.
Right.
So
Amazing.
that the
Okay.
Catholic Cathedral had the means to stream their services back to Ukraine.
Okay.
And as I understand it, that's what they endeavored to do with the cry. Now, I don't know what the outcome was, but
Right.
it may be, if you do a bit of a search, you may well
Okay.
find it somewhere.
Okay.
Because that was another extraordinary privilege, really, to feel that that work could be heard in the land itself
Wonderful.
of Ukraine.
For sure. When did you first write that? I lost track a little bit when you
Well,
wrote Cry.
it was released as an album in 2005,
Okay.
but it had a good 3 years or so just as an album until its
Okay.
world premiere in St Paul's Cathedral, London,
I
in
remember.
2008.
Sure. Okay.
So it has been around for quite a while, but as I said, not seen many live performances. It's quite an undertaking to perform the cry, and in fact, what we've been working at, which proven to be very, very workable at the Ukrainian cathedral, was a simplified version of it to
Okay.
make it more accessible to smaller groups, to people who maybe don't have the facility of a large choir, or,
Sure.
an orchestra, all that kind of stuff. So let's hope we've now got the means to make it much more available to people to perform.
Absolutely. That sounds excellent. And obviously, you've got plans ahead now for this year. I don't know how you have time for it all, Adrian, to be honest, but you're talking about going back to Holland again, I understand.
So I think that the highlight really, which is going to follow on through from this Easter right through to Easter 24, is all around the Passion. So
Okay.
as I think we spoke about last time,
Hmm.
this amazing project of completely remixing the Passion and making it available for release in February 2024.
Okay.
So that work is ongoing. My son Jamie, who's doing the mixing, he's well over halfway now.
Goodness.
And
Excellent.
what we're trying to do, sort of as we speak, really, is plan ahead as to what kind of events are we going to try and stage to celebrate the 50th anniversary. So just to clarify, although the Passion album as such came out in 1980, the original core of the Passion was actually on the second side of my very first album, which was called Fireflake.
Fireflake, yeah.
And that was released in 1974. So it was kind of coming to the realization not very long ago that we can genuinely say that February 2024 is the 50th anniversary of the Passion.
It's amazing. Incredible.
And what we're hoping to do is to stage some fully orchestral concerts, so orchestra and band. We're in the process of seeing if we can tie that down, seeing what kind of sponsorship we can get, so that come 2024 we actually can play the Passion as it was originally recorded, with entire orchestra and band and everything. And this Easter we're doing 3 concerts of the Passion back in Holland with band, as a kind of halfway stage, really, just to get us back into the work, get the musicians who I'll want to be playing sort of drums, guitar, bass, all that kind of stuff, get them working together. And then building up towards events in 2024.
Incredible. Definitely your second home, isn't it? I think, really.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have somewhere like that. I mean, of course, I would like to reawaken my audience in many other countries, and I hope maybe even this new look at the Passion might do that. But having said that, any artist is very, very fortunate to have a good, loyal audience anywhere.
Definitely.
And it turns out that for me, that very loyal audience for many years has been in Holland. And it seems kind of in a way quite unlikely, but then actually, if you start analyzing it, there are an awful lot of bands and artists for whom a single territory is incredibly successful. Germany, that hosts all sorts of bands that don't seem to do much in the UK. Japan, you've got various artists who are huge in Japan but hardly known elsewhere. It just seems to happen that way, that the right set of circumstances,
Sure,
and an
come together.
audience that want to stay with you, and it's just great when that happens.
I know we don't want to touch on this too much, but you know, the thing with Europe now, is it harder for you to tour or to do concerts in European countries?
Time will tell. The Dutch concerts weren't too much of a problem. I mean, everything has a financial consequence, so tickets are more expensive. Sort of hiring this, hiring that, getting there. That the costs are certainly more.
Right.
But fortunately, because I'm working with musicians that are from and in the country I'm going,
right,
we haven't got the problem of a whole band that have got to get work permits or a truck that's got to get over with all the gear. That all is on site, and I think that's the way.
That's the way
I'll be hoping to work in the future, is to wherever possible work with musicians who are in the EU, especially Holland.
Okay.
And then the only problem will come when we try to bring them to England. But that seems to get round the problem of transport.
Okay.
And endless paperwork.
For sure.
So I think I'm going to be all right on that front.
Well, that would be great, because I mean, huge acclaim, of course, for the Passion in the UK, wasn't, always has been. And I think there'll be lots of folk. I mean, we from Spain to get to the places in Holland where you're performing, it's really logistically difficult. It'd be great if there was some live shows in England, because we can get back to the UK much more easily.
And there will be. There will definitely be.
Great.
At least a couple, but maybe significantly more if we can get the sponsorship.
Okay.
And you're absolutely right. You know, one of the huge frustrations for me is that I haven't had the kind of people in management and event organizing in England that I have in Holland.
Right.
So I've done so little concert work, especially tours, in the UK over many years, including doing the Passion. And I wish that weren't the case. You know, a lot of people in England have asked, when are you performing? But the trouble, as you know, is it takes an awful lot more than me just saying I'm available. You've got to have the promoter. You've got to have the location that wants you. Yeah. You've got to have a reasonable confidence in ticket sales. There's so much more that goes with arranging a performance than just I'm coming.
Of course.
And that's what I've lacked in the UK.
Okay, well, maybe in time it'll start building the momentum. Will build you the right promoter, because you know we really need it for sure. There's loads of people out there who would love to see it again and hear it again. I know.
Thank you.
And we touched on it slightly, very briefly. You've got Israel planned, of course, this year as well.
That unfortunately is not happening.
Okay.
Not this year anyway.
Okay.
The organizers, I mean, the reason is very simple. The organizers had put an awful lot into this, and subsequently, to break even for that visit, they needed, I think it was around 50 people to sign up for what was an amazing tour, but very expensive.
Right.
And I think with the cost of living crisis and with everything else, they just weren't able to meet that expectation.
Right.
So it won't happen this year. What I think we may well do is look at doing something simpler, and therefore less costly, and requiring fewer people in the following year, or the next couple of years. But this year's trip is not happening.
Okay, was that those details are on your website currently? I guess, are they?
Yeah, there's a little video as well explaining the cancellation.
I missed that somewhere along the way. Okay.
It should be there.
Okay.
And the organisers, Mideast Tours, that they've contacted everybody who had provisionally booked.
Of course.
So everybody knows. But yeah, very disappointing, of course, on another level, because the work that was put into it and the kind of locations in Israel that we were going to move to and I was going to perform in were very special.
I'm sure.
But let's hope.
Fantastic.
We're hoping for the future we might be able to.
A unique experience, but it will hopefully happen at the right time. There's a little bit unsettled out there, I believe, as well at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot of factors in the sort of the mix that maybe it just wasn't the right time. Maybe sometimes you just have to look at it that way and say, okay, maybe there is a better time to go.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to the passion, and you talk about your son Jamie. So
Mm.
where does he do his work, Adrian? Where does he work out of?
So he's got a studio. Where is it now? I think it's in Camden, in London.
Okay,
It's a studio complex. There are 3 or 4 studios
right.
occupied by different artists,
Okay,
and he has his there, and that's where he does most of his work. Then he also has a home-built studio where he lives,
right.
which for our audience, they may not know what I'm talking about here, but it's Atmos enabled. Now, Atmos is this relatively new uh, approach to listening to sound that Apple initially developed,
Okay,
which is all about immersive sound. It's a whole other way of mixing music where
right.
you have to have the equipment, the other end, so you have to have the setup and the speakers.
Hmm.
But it means if you do have that, that when you listen to something that's been mixed in Atmos, you literally step into the middle of the concert stage.
Wow,
So if you're sitting in his studio and
incredible.
you close your eyes and you start listening to something, the sound comes from everywhere in the room, as if you are sitting in the middle of the orchestra or the band or whatever.
Mm,
It's phenomenal. The experience is amazing, and
okay.
because a lot of record companies are going that route, and a lot of films now are mixed with
Okay.
Atmos. Um, he has made sure he's sort of Atmos enabled to
Okay.
pick up the work that hopefully will be coming his way. So he does that in his home studio.
So anyone
Um,
can come with a CD an album effectively and say, can you mix it this way?
Absolutely, it's a
Okay.
costly process,
Okay.
but it's very different from the original mix. So you can't just sort of put it through a machine and it becomes
No.
Atmos.
No. Right.
He would go back to the original tapes,
Okay.
and then he would mix it with this huge 360 degrees spread of sound in mind.
Okay.
And that obviously changes quite substantially, where you put the instruments, what level they're at, all that kind of thing.
Okay.
It's quite a skill, but if and I guess it's probably going to grow a lot in the coming years. But if you've
Right.
got the money to buy the Atmos setup in your home, there are an increasing number of albums that are being mixed with that, and it's a transformational experience. It's nothing like
So
listening in
if
stereo.
you've got one Atmos and one non-Atmos, the two together and play them back to back, you would notice a massive
Oh
difference.
yeah, oh you
And
would.
what sort of investment is needed? I mean, is for an Atmos
Do you know,
system,
I'm not sure, but because he didn't give me the whole figure, but
didn't
the
he? Okay.
speakers, the speakers themselves, they're sort of between 5, 10, 15,000 pounds each. I mean, it's a range of speakers. So you've got
Okay.
the huge bass end, then you've got lots of much smaller speakers dotted around the room.
Okay.
But it's a lot of money. I think he benefited from some major sort of sponsorship help
Okay.
from the Atmos people, because they're
Mm.
trying to set up studios around the place that are equipped. So
Okay.
I don't think he's paid what somebody would have to pay if they were paying the full amount. But that's all right. But that's I should explain. That's to set up the studio. If you're buying the gear yourself for your home listening, it's expensive, but obviously nothing like that. You can get, I suppose, a relatively cheaper setup would probably be about £1,200, something like that.
Oh, okay. Right. Got
But
it.
if you go to companies like Richer Sounds, who are specialists in audio and video, they'll have deals that they can tell you about.
Okay.
And yes, it's a domestic use, but it's still transformational. And when it comes to watching movies, it's
Right.
just a dream. It's really a
Okay.
dream.
Well, everything's on the change, isn't it? Really, with music, and everyone's got to be able to stream. It's got to be here. It's got to be there. It's got to be everywhere. And people don't want to pay a lot for it either. Unfortunately, it seems to
I know,
me. But
exactly.
yeah, or maybe sometime I'll have your son's details, and I'll drop him a mail sometime. That'd be interesting.
You'd be welcome.
And how about your daughter, Carla? What's she up to these days?
My daughter, she heads up in the Bath region a charity called Headway that is
Okay.
working with people with brain injury.
Right.
There are several Headways around the country, but she's in charge of the Bath and Northeast Somerset
Wow.
operation.
Fantastic.
It's a small charity, but you know, a very responsible position that she has.
Excellent. That's great. And will she be doing some more singing with you, do you think?
I don't know is the answer to that. I mean, she's working full time, so
Okay.
it would have to be, you know, we have to plan well in
Of
advance for
course,
that
yeah.
to be.
Okay. Well,
Unfortunately, James, I'm going to have to call it a day.
Adrian,
I have to get
fantastic, my
going.
friend.